Philadelphia Eagles are 7-2 in the NFC East division, and they are in first place. And despite their record and them being first place in their division, I am not sold on this team. I am still not sold on this team. It's excuse me. All right. It started off rough for them in the beginning of the season, even when they went to Brazil and faced the Packers. First NFL game to be held in Brazil, which is still fucking stupid to me. I don't understand what's the point of that. But aren't they really into soccer? Isn't that their NFL? Isn't that their football? Yeah, they beat the Green Bay Packers, and I wasn't really impressed with how they looked. They weren't really getting into the backfield. They were getting beat up front. The Green Bay Packers accumulated 163 yards on the ground and had one rushing touchdown total. They gave up 260 yards through the air and gave up 2 touchdowns. And I wasn't really impressed. Jalen Hurts turned the ball over 2 times. I think he came close to having another interception in that game. He came close to having 3 picks. And then they played Atlanta, and pretty much the same story happened in that game. Atlanta pretty much had their way with them up front. They were able to establish a running game. They generated 152 yards on the ground, and Kirk Cousins threw for 241 yards total, had 2 touchdown passes, bad tackling, giving up big plays once again in the secondary. But despite all that, they still had a chance to win the game. Instead of running out the clock, giving it to Saquon Barkley, who has been an MVP candidate, chances are he won't win it because he's not a quarterback. Nick Sirianni decides to throw him the ball, play action, he drops it, he's wide open. They still have an opportunity to take the game away from Philly, and they do that by driving down the field and scoring the game-winning touchdown. And then Jalen Hurts throws a pick on Philly's last possession. Then they go to New Orleans. Still looks sloppy, but they were able to grind out a win. Jalen Hurts still wasn't looking all that great. Still turned the ball over. Then they get mollywopped by Tampa. Tampa just had their way with them the entire game. Now, to be fair, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith were not available in those 2 games. Then they had a much-needed bye, and since then they've been on a 5-game winning streak. But the teams that they have beaten aren't necessarily playoff contending teams, aren't necessarily Super Bowl contending teams. They beat the Browns, a team that's been having quarterback issues all season long with Deshaun Watson. He got hurt. Now Jameis Winston is the quarterback, and they really can't do anything on offense. They beat the Giants pretty bad, but it's the Giants. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, they come back, and Jalen Hurts has his 2 reliable targets, even though Devontae Smith didn't really do much in that game. But A.J. Brown, he had an impact. But the story was Saquon Barkley coming back to New York, and he balled out, rushing for 176 yards, had 1 touchdown. The Giants wideouts aren't really elite, and Philly was able to get pressure on Daniel Jones, get in his face, make him uncomfortable. Then they beat the Bengals, a team with a defense that can't really stop anybody. They beat the Jaguars. They gave them some fits, but Jacksonville is a disappointment, and they can't really capitalize on their opportunities. And Trevor Lawrence continues to underperform. And then they mollywop Dallas. I think they're the 4th team to make Dallas their bitch, 34-6. So these teams that they have beaten, these are winnable games, and kudos to Philly for taking advantage of these seriously flawed teams. I'm just still not sold on them just yet. They are playing much better. Saquon Barkley continues to be an MVP, and like I said, he probably won't get it because he's not a quarterback. The defensive line for Philly is having an impact. They're getting into the backfield, disrupting quarterbacks, making them uncomfortable. The defense overall has ramped up, and everyone seems to be on the same page. Jalen Hurts, even though he turned the ball over against Dallas, he's done a pretty good job of taking care of the football. But Jalen Hurts, it seems like he's at his best when he's throwing a goal ball to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, but especially A.J. Brown when he's throwing it deep. I think at times he looks for that big play a bit too much, and he'll hold on to the rock a bit too long, and he'll miss some easy check downs. Just check it down, take your little easy completions. But it seems like ever since his Super Bowl contending year, he's been kind of regressing a bit. But I still don't think he's, been playing. I mean, he has been turning the ball over quite a bit, but I still think he's he can help Philly get over the hump. So, in looking at Philly's schedule, they got the Commanders next, and how fitting. And they play them. I don't know what day they play on. Wait a minute, they play. Oh shit, they play tomorrow, as I'm recording this. So by the time I get this video out, it may be too late. The game may already be decided between Washington and Philly. But anyway, they play the Commanders. That's going to be a test to see how good this team is. After the Commanders, they got the Rams. That's a winnable game. The Ravens, a winnable game. The Panthers, a winnable game. The Steelers, they could very well beat them. And then they got the Commanders again. And then Dallas and New York. So for the most part, their schedule is pretty cushy. It's a favorable schedule for Philly. Now, they can't take these teams lightly, and I don't think they will. If they have, then they would have lost to the Giants or the Browns, the Bengals, the Jaguars. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Philly going forward. And by the time I get this video out, the game between the Commanders and the Eagles may have already been decided, so we'll see what happens there. All right, next up, the Washington Commanders, the team that came out of nowhere. They are second place in the division, 7-3. I made a video talking about Jaden Daniels. He's been playing very well, possibly Rookie of the Year. He's playing like a quarterback. He goes through his reads. He's looking to throw first or pass first and then run second. He's shown that he can spread the field. He can hit on those explosive plays down the field. When a wide receiver is covered, he can fit the ball to where his receiver can get it. I think he displayed that when they played the Ravens. And not only that, guys like Zach Ertz, who I think a lot of people have forgotten when he was in Philly. He was looked at as one of the best tight ends in the league. People were talking about him. He was kind of a household name. Then he went to Arizona, and his problem was that he was with Arizona, and he had Kyler Murray throwing him the ball. And I think because of that, people wrote him off. What has Zach Ertz done, right? And now that he's in Washington, he has a quarterback throwing him the football. He's relevant again. And I never really gave up on Zach Ertz. I thought he still had some talent left. Like I said, he played in Arizona. So Zach Ertz is getting the ball. Terry McLaurin, who is still an underrated wide receiver to me, he's getting his touches. They have a running back in Austin Eckler, who I still like more when it comes to passing. I think he's more effective when he's catching the ball out of the backfield. Defensively, for the Commanders, Frankie Louvu, who was a big pickup for them. He's been having a pretty good season, being able to play in coverage and at the line of scrimmage. I think he's been more effective at the line of scrimmage. But yeah, this Commanders team, they can very well surprise some people. Come playoff time, they'll probably make a lot of noise. And now we're going to get to the two irrelevant teams in the division. I should just cut the video off right here. The Dallas Cowboys are 3-6, third place in the division. They are a mess. They are the spilled ice cold coffee that when you're driving behind someone and they taste it, and I guess they don't like it or they've had enough, rather than throw it in the trash can, that person will roll down his or her window, stick the hand out, pour the coffee out into the street. That's the Dallas Cowboys, okay? Or they're the nasty loogie that someone will hawk up and spit out. That's the Dallas Cowboys. They're just a mess. They have been mollywopped 1, 2, 3, 4 times at home, okay? The Saints came in and bent them over their own furniture. The Ravens came in, even though they almost made a comeback, bent them over on their own furniture. The Lions came in, bent them over on their own furniture. And then Philly came in and bent them over on their own furniture at their own home. They've been blown out 4 times at home, okay? This team probably needs to just hit the reset button. Dak Prescott's not the guy. I was off the Dak Prescott train after they lost to San Francisco in that divisional playoff game. Do you feel comfortable when Dallas is down and you feel comfortable with Dak Prescott leading the way at quarterback? Because I don't. I think that when the Cowboys are down double digits, it's pretty much over. He looks stiff. I don't think he has a whole lot of arm strength. I think when he's forced to throw on the run, he can't really get the ball to his wide receivers accurately. He doesn't do a good job of taking care of the football. They don't really have a running back. Who is their running back? They don't run the football because they don't really have a number one running back to give the ball to. Who is their running back? The wide receiving core, CeeDee Lamb is like the only guy that teams have to worry about. If you take him out of the equation, then you've pretty much shut down their offense. Defensively, they can't really stop the run. They can't stop the pass. they just keep being a disappointment. And I think they need to blow this thing up, start over, find a new quarterback, find a running back, get some more wide receivers, find someone who can stop the run on defense, beef up that defensive line, and get rid of Jerry Jones. I mean, you can't really get rid of Jerry Jones because he's the owner, but I think it starts with Jerry Jones. He's the problem. At the end of the day, he's the true problem. Get a friggin' owner that actually wants to get this team back to its glory days, because I just don't think Jerry Jones really cares. That's it for Dallas. And last and least, the New York Giants. They are 2-8, last place in the division. Scratch them off and scratch off Dallas. Can I defend Daniel Jones for a little bit here? Of course you can, Life. It's your channel. I've never made a video on Daniel Jones. I've always thought about making a video defending him, but I've always been hesitant to pull the trigger. I defended him once when they went to the playoffs, when I did an analysis video when they beat Minnesota. It seems that over the years, this notion that the reason why the Giants are struggling or the reason why they suck is because of Daniel Jones. And I've never been an advocate to blame one guy for a team struggle, especially in the sport of football, which is a team fucking sport. Okay, I'll never ever subscribe to that notion to where if a team loses, it's the quarterback's fault. If a team wins, it's because of the quarterback. It's a team sport, okay? Plain and simple. And all I hear is Daniel Jones sucks, and they shouldn't have paid Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones is the reason why the Giants are struggling, and Daniel Jones this, and Daniel Jones that. Just all the trashing of Daniel Jones. He has made some bad decisions, on the field throughout his career. Every quarterback does. But yeah, he has made some terrible decisions with the football, and he has looked bad at times. I'm not defending that, okay? And he's looked bad at times this season. I'm not defending that. I still think that Daniel Jones, if he was put in a different situation, if he had a better roster to work with, I think he would look like a different quarterback. I think he would look like a different quarterback if he was in Chicago or if he was in Cleveland, if he had guys around him and a coaching staff that knew how to draw up some good plays for the offense that he would be a part of. But a big reason as to why he's been struggling is the fact that he plays in New York, okay? Having to play behind terrible offensive lines that have done a horrible job of protecting him. Not having Saquon Barkley for the majority of his career, okay? Not having wideouts, no elite group of wide receivers, not a number one guy to work with, to develop a chemistry with, not a Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, a friggin' Drake London, Stephon Diggs, he hasn't had that guy to work with. Even this season, take the Bengals, the Sunday night game, for example. The Bengals defense has not really looked good all season long. They've had trouble stopping people, but when they played the Giants, you would have thought that they were a top 5 defense. DBs coming up from behind them, knocking passes out of their hands, wide receivers dropping passes. When Evan Ingram was in New York, I guess he was supposed to be that guy. He was supposed to be that number one target for Daniel Jones. He dropped passes. He wasn't a reliable target. So if Daniel Jones had a much better roster to work with, he would probably look like a different quarterback. I think he will look a lot better than what he does now. Okay? You need to put some pieces around him. And I hope that he gets kicked out of New York, and I hope that he ends up on a better roster. He gets another chance somewhere else to where he can be successful. And if he's put on a better roster and still struggles, then hey, he was never that guy. He was never supposed to be a franchise quarterback. He'll probably be a another Ryan Fitzpatrick. Who's another Gardner Minshew, a Jacoby Brissett, a good backup QB. Maybe that's what he's destined to be. I still think Daniel Jones still has some talent. I think he can help a team if you put a roster around him. You need a roster, okay? It's a team sport. And I'm not trying to say that Daniel Jones will become a top 5 QB, a top 10 QB. All I'm saying is that he will look a lot different if he had some more pieces to work with around him. So that's all I'm saying, okay? I can picture some retard who comes across this video going, "You're a Daniel Jones fan supporter, Daniel Jones fanboy." Anyway, so the Giants Yeah, they're not a playoff contending team. Although it's funny, I think even though they're 2-8, I still think that they're a decent team. I do like some of the pieces that they do have on that team, especially at the defensive line. But yeah, it's they're not going anywhere. And when they beat Cleveland and when they beat Seattle, I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe they're finding something here, you know? Maybe they can at least make a threat. At least they can become a threat to make it to the postseason. But no, they've lost to Cincinnati, Philly, Pittsburgh, Washington, and Carolina. And for the most part, they've been in these games. They didn't do too well against Minnesota, Philly, but for the most part, they've been hanging in there. So it's not like they've been getting the crap kicked out of them every single game. I'll say that. You know, they play hard, but that's all I can say for the New York Giants. So, with all that said, who will win the NFC East division? I think it'll come down to Philly and Washington. I think it's obvious. I'm going to pick Washington. I think they're the better team. Jaden Daniels, who knew that he would perform like this? Zach Ertz, he's become relevant once again. Defensively, it seems like their pass rush is getting better each week. The fact that they gave away some important pieces. And, you know, we'll see what happens tomorrow. If I can get this video out before tomorrow. If I don't, then oh well. Regardless of what happens tomorrow, that's going to be a big game. I'll still hang with Washington. So that's my take on this NFC East division. Who do you think will win the division? Please like and subscribe. That is it. I am out.